Hello, welcome to Dendrobots. So, this is the second video. All right, the first video we talked about the reading section. Okay, the tricks or the strategy that you need to use in reading. Okay, so look for it. It's posted here, and you can look for it and listen to it. Now, this video is about TOEFL listening section. Okay. All right. So, the point number one, you have to know that the listening section is not about writing. Okay? Because I've realized that whenever we say that, you are going to be listening, and after the listening, you're going to be asked questions, we tend to start writing the important points. But what I've realized is when you write, you end up wasting time and paper, and then the questions that are asked after your listening part has nothing to do with what you wrote down, so you just wasted your time and energy. Okay, and please do not write the entire listening section. Some people are running out of paper, all right, because they are writing a lot during the listening section. Again, the listening section is not about writing. And if you're going to write, if the speaker mentions certain important dates, then you can write down those dates. Okay? Otherwise, do not write. That brings me to the second point. Okay? Listening. Listening. Again, I say listening is about listening. All right? So, since listening section is about listening and not writing, just listen. And so, for example, when somebody's talking in the recording, your goal is to listen, because if you start writing during the listening section, you are going to miss important points that the recording is saying or the speaker is saying. Okay? Because your attention is on the paper writing instead of listening. Okay, so if you listen, you will remember most of the content. All right, if you just listen, you will remember most of the content, because there is a recording that you have to listen to, and then immediately after the recording there is questions. Okay, trust me, your brain is amazing. If you listen, you're going to remember what you just heard. All right? So just listen. And for example, and then the other thing you have to remember that when you're talking to your friends or your family members, when you are listening, or when they are talking and you are listening, you don't have a paper writing down, what they're telling you. But guess what? You still remember most of the information they told you about. Okay? So, when it comes to listening, just relax and listen. Okay? Very important. So you have to know. So the other point, okay? There's a book called the the art of listening. Okay, listening is a skill that you can obtain by practicing. So, but listening is not, you cannot listen passively. Okay, there's no such thing as listening passively. So your listening is an active, okay, It's an active entity, okay, that you're supposed to pay attention. Because if you say you are listening passively, you are listening and writing, that's not listening, that's just hearing. You're just hearing words, okay? There's a difference between hearing and listening. So when you're writing, you are hearing what the speaker is saying, but you are not listening. So most of you, or for example, most of us, before I came up with this strategy, say I said I'm writing too much, and after I write, when I'm answering the questions, I don't even use what I wrote on the paper. So what I started doing was just listening, and I did well just by doing that. Okay, so just listen, active listening. Okay, so listen actively and listen with interest, no matter the topic. This is very important because for some students, when they bring about a, a science, a scientific topic, or topic about rocks, topics about, let's say, the intergalactic stars, or the environment, most people get scared because it's a topic which they are not familiar with. Okay, but the trick is the mind. You can trick your mind. Okay, whenever you go into for saying, you know what, this topic is interesting, I'm gonna learn a lot. So whenever you say this topic is interesting, you are already opening up to listening actively. Okay, so whenever you see the topic on listening, don't be anxious that you don't know the topic. The key is to be interested and just listen. Okay, all right. This is what I just talked about, that people get anxious, and whenever you're anxious, you cannot listen actively. When your anxiety goes up, what's going to happen is you're not going to listen. You'll be hearing the speaker talking, but you won't be listening. Okay? So make sure that you are not anxious because you are not familiar with the topic which is being discussed. Just just pretend that you are interested. Okay, I'm not saying that pretend, meaning you have to trick your mind that this topic is interesting, and by saying that this topic is interesting, you open your mind to listening. Okay, so you start listening actively. And also, you have to develop the mentality that everything is interesting. Okay, so develop that everything is interesting. I know when you're adults, we think that we don't need to learn about things which we already know about, but there may be something unique about that thing is being discussed, and so you have to always be curious and develop that mentality that everything is interesting. And for example, we tend to remember more in conversations in those people we deem interesting. Okay, so if we're interested in people, we become open to listening to them. Okay, so that's what you have to do. So make sure that you develop the mentality of listening actively. Okay, this is this is uh, this is not something that people are going to tell you when you're taking TOEFL. They're going to give you, okay, here is some templates you have to use, or use this, use that. There are so many things, but remember, the listening section, you're being tested about your listening ability, not your writing ability. So don't write down anything unless it's like some dates or some numbers. So don't write in your listening section. Just listen, because immediately after the speaker finishes talking, they ask you questions and your brain already remembers what they talked about. So just listen. Okay? So we remember more in people or things we believe are interesting. So keep that in mind. Okay? So here is the thing again. Most candidates, because the way the TOEFL exam is set, we start with the reading section. Okay? And most of the time, the reading section, most of us run out of time. And by the time we're at the end and we finish with the reading section, our anxiety is over the roof because we didn't have time to finish the section properly. So by the time we start the listening section, which comes immediately after the reading, what happens? We are already anxious. So remember, anxiety is going to make us not listen. We are going to be hearing, but you're not going to be listening. So I recommend that you start the listening section with renewed energy. So forget about the writing section. Now this is a new section. Focus on that new section with new energy to listen. Okay? Leave the reading part in the past. All right. So whatever you did a few minutes ago in the reading section, even if you didn't finish and you're thinking, oh, I messed up, I'm not going to do well in the reading section, forget about the reading section for now and just focus on the reading. You cannot change the past, but what you can change is how you're going to answer the listening section. Okay? Because you can actually do better in the listening section if you focus. So forget about the reading, okay, if you don't do well, because this happens most of the time. And then the other thing I'm trying to tell you, I'll tell you is that most people have taken TOEFL multiple times, that when they finish one section, they don't even read the instruction in between the section. They just click and move on to the next section. All right. So here's a trick. You have to, whenever you finish a section, make sure that you read those instructions, because when you are reading the instructions between the sections, okay, when you are reading the instructions, it gives you some time to rest before the next section. So read those instructions, let the time erupts before your next section starts. But when that time is erupting, you are resting. Okay, you are resting your mind and regathering your energy so you can focus on the next section. So make sure you take advantage of those instructions in between the sections. They will give you a break. Okay. All right. And most importantly, know that active listening is a skill that you can obtain by practicing. All right. So there are some people who say, oh, that's a good listener. Oh, yeah, you're a good listener. Why? Because those people become very attentive, and when somebody's talking, they're just listening to that person. Okay? So when you're practicing, okay, there are so many listening parts. You can go to the TOEFL official website. You can buy those listening practice exams, and actually and they grade you, so you can answer the question and they grade you. However, when you're practicing those exams, try not to write, just listen. Okay, just listen and try to answer the questions. You'll be amazed how well you will do. Okay. All right. So this is the end of the listening. We have talked about the reading. We've talked about the listening, and these are some of these are things which I've realized that not many resources or sources are going to tell you about. Okay, about the TOEFL, they will tell you, oh, you have to read this, you have to do this, you have to, when you're listening, you have to use this template, you have to do. But it's very simple. Listening section is about listening. So just listen. Okay. All right. So the next part, we're going to be talking about the speaking part, which I have interesting review on that. Okay. So make sure you subscribe, like, and share if you think this video is going to help somebody, please share it. Okay? All right. Good luck and have a nice day.